After much persuasion, the young priest finally agreed to follow the young man to the junkyard. However, after performing the ritual, the priest stated that the mentally disabled boy in front of him had no problems. He simply suffered from a mental disability like so many other mentally disabled children. During the ritual, the crucifix in the young priest's hand showed no reaction whatsoever. This proved that no evil spirit possessed the body of the disabled boy. The young priest was about to turn and leave, but the young man stopped him. He was certain that the disabled boy was possessed by a demon. Just at that moment, a clumsy crow, its limbs underdeveloped, swooped past the two men, crashing headfirst into the car's window. Following that, a rain of black crows appeared in the sky. Witnessing this scene, both men broke out in a cold sweat. This place definitely had a demon. Furthermore, it wasn't just any demon, but one that was extremely powerful. They were visitors from the East Sea. When setting foot on the land of humans, they brought along an intense cruelty. They would gradually infiltrate human bodies, seize their forms, and gnaw at the minds of those in the lower strata of society, those who were struggling and suffering. After being eroded of their reason, those people would gradually turn into demons. At this point, they would start taking revenge on all those who had once looked down on them. However, these anonymous guests were only servants to a powerful spirit. They were all controlled by Park Roman Tudu, a cruel spirit who craved fresh blood and human fear. The root of everything began 20 years ago. Hwang Pyong, a boy with a special psychic ability, could see the demons residing in people's bodies, causing chaos and mischief in their lives. It was precisely because of this ability that Hwang Pyong's father always felt animosity towards his own son. Fortunately, the rest of the family was not like that. They were all deeply sympathetic to Hwang Pyong's ability. One clear, moonlit night, the entire village gathered to perform a ritual to the sea god, praying for a year of favorable weather so that the villagers could freely set sail and go fishing. After the shaman completed the ritual on the shore, the young men of the village went into the water to offer sacrifices to the sea god. As everyone was coming back up, one of them was suddenly pulled underwater by a mysterious force. Seeing this, the villagers immediately shouted for everyone to pull the man back up. As night fell, the man began to exhibit strange behaviors. Unconsciously, he used a knife to attack an old man, severely injuring him. Those present immediately rushed over to stop the man from doing anything further. However, he suddenly used his strength to fling everyone several meters away. Hearing the commotion outside, Hwang Pyong hurried out to see what was happening. The man suddenly turned his head to look at him for a moment and then used the knife to stab himself in the eye. Witnessing the horrifying scene, Hwang Pyong became feverish with terror. In his delirium, Hwang Pyong kept muttering, "The boy saw a demon." From that moment on, Hwang Pyong's family began to encounter countless misfortunes. First, his unfortunate mother, one day, was found floating on the sea for no apparent reason. Following that, his grandmother hanged herself from a tree branch. The series of misfortunes led the family to call in a shaman to perform an exorcism. However, when the shaman performed the ritual, its effects were reversed. The shaman stated that the spirit dwelling in Hwang Pyong's body was too strong. Compared to Hwang Pyong, they were like mosquitoes trying to sting a telephone pole. Even the shaman had no way to expel the spirit from Hwang Pyong's body. The next day, Hwang Pyong's family invited two priests. After examining him, the two priests said that Hwang Pyong was completely normal because the crucifix showed no reaction when in contact with him. However, the older priest discovered bruises all over Hwang Pyong's body. He was convinced that Hwang Pyong had been severely beaten by his family. Hearing the priest's words, Hwang Pyong's father flew into a rage, as he had done nothing of the sort to him. After that, the three adults went outside, leaving Hwang Pyong and the younger priest behind, who felt pity for the child suffering from domestic abuse. The young priest gave Hwang Pyong a piece of paper, on which his home address was written. Hwang Pyong waved to the young priest as if he had something to say. When the priest leaned closer, Hwang Pyong suddenly whispered three words, "Park ill do." A minute and a half later, the young priest's face suddenly turned deathly pale. It was evident that he had been possessed by a demon. The young priest told the older priest that he had found a new faith and that he wanted to go home to his family. That evening, the young priest's house was enveloped by an eerie, bone-chilling atmosphere. The dog in the house barked incessantly at the priest, as if it saw a ghost. Just then, the young priest stood up and used a rod to silence the dog permanently. The next victims were his parents, under the influence of the young demonic priest, who were willing to slaughter their own parents. At this time, there was also a younger brother in the house. The young priest, with a gruesome face, slowly walked to the door of the boy's room. The boy, terrified, hid under the bed to prevent his brother from finding him. On the Hwang Pyong family's side, the situation wasn't much better. Remembering the shaman's advice, Hwang Pyong's father decided to send his son to meet King Yama in order to eradicate the demonic spirit. Fortunately, his grandfather intervened in time to stop his father. Taking this opportunity, Hwang Pyong frantically ran outside. He followed the address written on a piece of paper and found his way to the house of the possessed priest. Looking towards the house in the distance, Hwang Pyong suddenly became extremely alarmed. Just then, a police officer and her daughter passed by, noticing Hwang Pyong staring intently at the house. The female police officer was certain that something bad was going on. At this moment, the possessed priest was still searching for his hiding younger brother. In a moment of danger, a knock on the door suddenly echoed. When the young priest opened the door, the police officer noticed that his hands were covered in blood. Afterward, the police officer made the excuse of asking for a glass of tea to investigate the situation. Stepping inside, she was shocked, stunned, and utterly taken aback to see corpses strewn everywhere. The methods of this murderer were extremely cruel. She immediately called the police station for backup. Not long after, the female police officer found the possessed priest's younger brother. Just then, the possessed priest suddenly appeared out of nowhere and attacked her. Without hesitation, the police officer sacrificed herself, restraining the demon in front of her so that the younger brother had a chance to escape. But she was no match for that demon either. Soon after, he sent the police officer to meet King Yama. When the younger brother ran outside, the police had also arrived. Then, the police sadly carried the female police officer's body outside. Witnessing her mother sacrificing herself for justice, her daughter was in immense pain. The young girl couldn't believe what was happening before her eyes. The possessed priest had also vanished into nothingness. Looking towards the fields, Hwang Pyong suddenly saw his demonic face. This scene haunted Hwang Pyong for a long time, even into adulthood. Hwang Pyong works as a taxi driver, but he constantly searches for the possessed priest in his subconscious. The demon inhabiting the priest's body is none other than Park Il-du, the most powerful of evil spirits. Thanks to his psychic abilities, Hwang Pyong easily senses locations where this evil spirit is causing havoc. He can find the host or the victim in time to offer rescue. However, he has never once found a lead about the possessed priest. That night, Hwang Pyong dreamt of a crime scene again. The location was some kind of underground sewer. Hwang Pyong woke up startled, and afterwards, through the internet, he tried searching for areas that appeared in his dream. The next day, Hwang Pyong went to the place that most closely resembled the one in his dream. There, Hwang Pyong indeed found a corpse. He asked the sanitation workers there to call the police, and the police quickly arrived at the scene to take over the case. The beautiful detective Kang Kil-young also arrived. Kil-young wanted a summary of the situation. The victim was the director of an environmental company. He had been murdered by multiple fatal stab wounds. The strange thing was that the area around the body was completely dry, but the victim's body was covered in seawater. The police also found a car near the site of the corpse discovery. There were many bloodstains in the car, indicating that he was assassinated there and then moved to this location. There must be some reason why the perpetrator threw the corpse into the sewer. Afterwards, Kil-young went to the director's office to investigate. She learned that recently the director had a feud with a disgruntled employee. He had forced the employee to work during stormy weather, causing him to have an accident without providing any compensation. However, that employee had become paralyzed and had to use a wheelchair. At this time, Hwang Pyong was at the employee's house. He asked him about the possessed priest and saw a picture. The employee was extremely startled, seemingly knowing something, but insisted on escorting Hwang Pyong out the door. Hwang Pyong met the employee's daughter. The girl told Hwang Pyong that her father had been acting strangely recently. Her expression was very fearful. After that, Hwang Pyong tried to ask for more information, but the girl turned and left without saying another word. Back in his car, Wang Pyong encountered Kil Young. She had also come to the employee's house to investigate. As soon as she saw Wang Pyong, Detective Kang recognized this young whippersnapper. He had been recorded by cameras at both the crime scene and the dead director's office, and now he was showing up at the suspect's house. There was no way he wasn't involved in the case. She immediately took the young man to the station. She asked why he had been at those places. It may sound unbelievable, but I am a psychic. I was forewarned about the location of the crime scene. Detective Kang thought this guy was talking nonsense, so she kept Wang Pyong at the station until nightfall. Then, Wang Pyong dreamt again. The employee's family was in deep trouble. As soon as the police released Wang Pyong due to lack of evidence, he hurriedly rushed to the employee's house. There, he encountered Kil Young, who had arrived to investigate. The two of them entered to find that the employee's wife had been murdered, while the employee and his daughter were nowhere to be seen. They immediately went outside to search. Surprisingly, the employee, who had been paralyzed and in a wheelchair that morning, was now standing outside, staring at Wang Pyong and Kil Young with an eerie gaze. Then, the employee turned and ran away. Wang Pyong and Kil Young hurriedly gave chase. Unexpectedly, he wasn't paralyzed at all and was running very fast, leaping like a superhuman. Wang Pyong finally managed to catch up to him. The employee even pulled out a knife, intending to stab Wang Pyong. Luckily, Kil Young intervened just in time. The two quickly subdued the employee. He confessed to murdering his wife and daughter. Upon hearing this, Kil Young went berserk, throwing punches relentlessly into the employee's face. Afterward, she wanted to take him to the station. But at this point, the employee couldn't move anymore. Wang Pyong knew that the spirit possessing his body had departed, so he had no choice but to carry him to the car. Unexpectedly, Wang Pyong then tricked Kil Young. He locked her up and took the employee away. Afterward, Wang Pyong took him to his shaman friend to perform an exorcism and also to inquire about the whereabouts of the evil spirit bin. His shaman friend claimed he wasn't strong enough to purge this evil spirit, and so he invited two priests. First, the young priest Mateo wanted to check if the employee was truly possessed. Suddenly, the employee sat up, grabbed the old priest's robes, and kept whispering horrifying sounds. Everyone tied him up, and then they went outside, leaving the old priest alone to perform the ritual. At that time, Kil Young arrived. She insisted on taking the employee away, and even threatened to imprison Wang Pyong. Just then, the old priest came out. His face was a bit pale, but it seemed the exorcism had been successful. The two priests went home, and Kil Young also took the employee into custody, but Wang Pyong discovered that the employee had not been exorcised. He warned Kil Young to be careful because he might do something terrible. Indeed, after being taken to the station, the employee started acting strangely. He kept scratching himself until he was bleeding, to the point that the police had to restrain him. Suddenly, the employee grabbed a pencil and stabbed himself in the eye. Then, everyone remembered what Wang Pyong had said. Unexpectedly, this terrible thing had happened. The police had no choice but to carry the employee to the hospital. On the other side, after returning from the exorcism, the old priest also started showing strange signs. He warned Mateo about a powerful spirit that was near Wang Pyong. He advised him to not get involved with him. Right after that, the old priest walked into the middle of the road and was hit and killed by a car. The next day, Wang Pyong attended the old priest's funeral. He knew the exorcism the day before had failed, but he still wanted to ask the young priest to help him perform another ritual to find the missing daughter of that family. Mateo refused because his mentor had already warned him. Wang Pyong was extremely angry and cursed the young priest as a coward. Afterward, he returned home to seek help from his sorcerer friend. However, his friend was also aware of the spirit's immense power. If they continued to meddle, the consequences would be unpredictable. Yet, swayed by Wang Pyong's persuasion, the sorcerer friend wavered and went to the hospital to assist the possessed employee with the exorcism. But the sorcerer's power was too weak, causing him to suffer a backlash and cough up fresh blood. Suddenly, a young priest appeared. He demanded everyone leave so he could handle the demon himself. After performing a few basic incantations on the possessed man, the demon within him began to writhe in agony. Then, the possessed man pointed to a corner. Mateo assumed the spirit had escaped his body and was hiding there, so he turned to look. Unexpectedly, the possessed man was merely trying to distract the young priest. Seizing the opportunity, he lifted the priest up into the air. Mateo quickly pressed his crucifix against the possessed man's forehead, helping him narrowly escape. Following that, the young priest decided to use a more potent method. The demon inside the man relentlessly pleaded for help, saying another spirit was present. At that moment, the possessed man screamed the name, Park Il-Du. Mateo felt a chill run down his spine, realizing a powerful spirit was nearby. It rendered him completely helpless. Only after it departed was he able to regain his composure. The young priest still refused to give up, completing the final step of the ritual. The demon within the possessed man was finally freed. After the ceremony, the man vomited a large quantity of seawater. Mateo emerged outside, pale and shaken, and handed the employee over to the police. He said he would tell the police the location of his daughter. Meanwhile, Kil Young and Hwang Pyong returned to the employee's house to resume their search for his missing daughter. At that point, Hwang Pyong reacted to an evil spirit and grabbed Kil Young by the neck. After a struggle, police officer Kang managed to subdue Hwang Pyong. He too was freed from the evil spirit's control. It turned out that Hwang Pyong himself had reacted strongly to the assassination, giving the evil spirit an opportunity to possess him and cause chaos. Right then, Hwang Pyong discovered something inside a closet. Kil Young approached to investigate and found a black crow hidden inside. It was likely the charm that allowed the demon to possess the employee. They quickly took it to be destroyed. Afterward, Kil Young and Hwang Pyong received a tip about the location of the employee's daughter, and they rushed to the site. They found and rescued the young girl. However, she was still terrified. The next day, at the hospital, the priest visited the staff member again to make sure he was completely back to normal. The evil spirit inside the staff member's body had been purged. Meanwhile, Hwang Pyong also visited his daughter. He advised her to go see her father, explaining that he was possessed by a demon, which was why he had murdered his wife and committed those atrocities against their daughter. In reality, he did not want any of it to happen. His daughter, being understanding, promised Hwang Pyong that she would visit her father after she recovered. That evening, Hwang Pyong received guidance regarding another case. In a taxi with a monkey doll hanging inside, 2 girls had been kidnapped and murdered. The next morning, he told Kil Young about it and asked her to look for any girls with similar characteristics who had gone missing recently. However, at this point, Kil Young still didn't fully trust Hwang Pyong. But as a police officer, she couldn't ignore such cases. Officer Kang asked a colleague to search for information, and they indeed found a girl with similar characteristics whose family had reported her missing 2 days prior. Kil Young then called to verify this information with Hwang Pyong, and the two began searching together. That evening, the kidnapper struck again. He drove his taxi and tricked a short-haired girl into getting in. However, he didn't take the correct route, which made her suspicious. At this moment, Hwang Pyong's car happened to pass the kidnapper's taxi. He quickly let his passenger out and turned around to follow them. Hwang Pyong blocked the kidnapper's car, but unexpectedly, he reversed and then charged towards Hwang Pyong, forcing him to dodge quickly. After that, the two engaged in a tense high-speed chase. During the chase, Hwang Pyong tried to ram the rear of the kidnapper's car, causing them both to crash in a deserted area. After the accident, Hwang Pyong was briefly dazed. When he came to, he quickly ran to the kidnapper's car, but the kidnapper had escaped. He opened the trunk and found the short-haired girl. Immediately, he called Kil Young to report the situation. Suddenly, the kidnapper ambushed Hwang Pyong from behind, knocking him to the ground. Even so, Hwang Pyong was determined to hold onto him. Seeing Hwang Pyong so resilient, the kidnapper became even more ruthless, hitting him several more times with a weapon. Fortunately, a truck came along. Otherwise, Hwang Pyong likely wouldn't have survived. The next day, Hwang Pyong woke up in the hospital. He didn't seem at all like someone who had just recovered from a serious injury. Hwang Pyong quickly left the hospital. Outside, he met Officer Kang. Afterwards, Hwang Pyong showed Kil Young the black box footage and recounted the details of the previous day's events for her. Reasoning that the kidnapper would need to avoid detection after the accident, His car would certainly not be taken for repairs, but rather would be sent to a junkyard. Hwang Pyong and his senior colleague went to the junkyard to investigate. There, Officer Kang found the kidnapper's car. Simultaneously, she noticed someone secretly watching her. Together with her senior colleague, they immediately chased after this individual. Hwang Pyong blocked him and landed a blow, causing him to fall. Unexpectedly, this person turned out to be the junkyard owner's younger brother. Moreover, he had an intellectual disability. When brought to the station for questioning, the disabled man seemed bewildered and unable to provide any valuable leads. Kil Young told Hwang Pyong about this. He decided to go to the junkyard to meet the disabled man. That evening, Hwang Pyong had another nightmare. The possessed priest and the demon Park Il-du appeared, trying to take his life. Then, he was surrounded by water. Hwang Pyong woke up with a start, relieved it was just a dream. His shaman friend believed Hwang Pyong was a magnet for spirits, and that's why he was always surrounded by them. In truth, it was common knowledge that Hwang Pyong had always had spiritual attachments since childhood. The next day, Hwang Pyong and his friend went to the junkyard. They wanted to examine whether there was an evil spirit attached to the disabled man. When they saw him, he was scratching himself, an unmistakable sign of possession. The disabled man attempted to resist, but Hwang Pyong and his friend were prepared to handle it. Suddenly, his older brother appeared and intervened. Then, he invited them both inside to talk. The shaman friend told the older brother that his younger brother was possessed, but he didn't believe it. Hwang Pyong found a newspaper clipping with a photo of the elderly priest from years ago who had performed an exorcism on him. Hwang Pyong said to the older brother, "If you don't believe your brother is possessed, then why would you keep information about this priest?" The older brother, his secret discovered, felt extremely uneasy. After that, Hwang Pyong asked his friend to stay and keep an eye on the disabled man while he went to find the elderly priest. After meeting the elderly priest, Hwang Pyong asked about the possessed priest from years ago. But the incident with that subordinate had traumatized the elderly priest. He had also quit the priesthood a long time ago. Information about the possessed priest after the murders that year had completely disappeared. The elderly priest couldn't provide any further help to Hwang Pyong. In the evening, Curly Head noticed his mentally challenged younger brother exhibiting strange behavior. He kept asking his older brother, "Why did you leave me for Mom to hit me?" It turned out that, in their childhood, the two brothers were frequently abused by their biological mother. The stronger older brother always managed to run away quickly, leaving the weaker younger brother to be brutally tormented by their mother. This had fueled his hatred for his older brother. Right then, Curly Head sensed a change in his younger brother. He was truly possessed. Curly Head immediately went outside and called a shaman for help. At that moment, Hwang Pyong also returned. Hwang Pyong wanted to take Curly Head to see someone. On another side, Kil Young went to the house of the third victim Hwang Pyong had mentioned. However, unexpectedly, the girl was still alive. Thinking that Hwang Pyong had deceived her, Detective Kang called and berated him. She wanted to put an end to the spiritual cases that Hwang Pyong had brought up. Hwang Pyong was also angry because, after everything that had happened, Kil Young still didn't believe in his psychic abilities. Afterward, Hwang Pyong led Curly Head to Father Mateo's house. They asked him to perform an exorcism to drive the evil out of the mentally challenged younger brother and help him have a normal life. Mateo agreed to their request. The young priest followed Hwang Pyong to a junkyard. However, after examination, he concluded that the mentally challenged brother was not possessed at all, but simply suffering from a normal mental disability. The crucifix in the priest's hand had absolutely no reaction to any spirits around. Mateo wanted to go back, but Hwang Pyong stopped him, firmly insisting that the mentally challenged brother was possessed. Suddenly, a crow swooped past them, crashing into the car. Then, in the sky, crows fell like rain. Both were terrified by this scene. Hwang Pyong was certain that there was a demon here, and this demon was no ordinary one. On another side, Ju Wai and her senior went out to eat. When the server brought out a cleaver, the senior jokingly said that she must have love scars or tattoos, which is why she had to wear long sleeves. Ju Wai suddenly remembered that, when she met the short-haired woman believed to be the third victim, she was also wearing long sleeves. Detective Kang decided to go to the short-haired woman's house again. She discovered that there were still marks from being tied up on the short-haired woman's arms. It turned out she really had been kidnapped, just like Wang Pyong said. At this point, the short-haired woman recounted the entire story to Kill Young, from when she was kidnapped until she escaped. What Detective Kang was most interested in the story was that the kidnapper had an accomplice. Meanwhile, the young priest and Wang Pyong decided to perform an exorcism on the mentally challenged brother one more time. However, he still didn't react. Wang Pyong took out a photo of a possessed priest and asked if he recognized this person. Unexpectedly, the young priest also knew the person in the photo. Suddenly, all the lights went out. Curly-haired guy turned to grab a flashlight. When there was light, the others discovered the mentally disabled guy had disappeared. He was hiding to one side and then suddenly jumped out, holding a knife to the young priest's throat. Wang Pyong told curly-haired guy to advise his younger brother to stop, but he just silently moved closer. In his hand, he held a pair of pliers. Curly-haired guy looked directly into Wang Pyong's eyes, making him imagine the scene of the young priest's assassination. Unexpectedly, it was curly-haired guy who was possessed, not the mentally disabled guy. The mentally disabled guy was just being controlled by his older brother and had become his accomplice. After that, they tied up the priest and Wang Pyong. At this time, Wang Pyong's phone received a call from Kill Young to confirm information. Everything he had told her was true. Seeing no response on the other end, police officer Kang knew Wang Pyong was in trouble. She quickly informed the police team to provide support. At this point, Wang Pyong and the young priest also regained consciousness. Curly-haired guy said that when the priest performed the exorcism, he also felt pain. After that, he vomited out a pile of screws and then lunged to assault his younger brother. "My brother needs to be beaten to listen. Why doesn't the priest listen to his older brother?" He was alluding to Father Mateo. It turned out, Mateo was the younger brother of the priest who was possessed in the past. At that moment, Wang Pyong realized and wanted to confirm it. He tried to ask the young priest, but Mateo was still traumatized when recalling the old incident, so he didn't provide a clear answer. Suddenly, curly-haired guy grabbed a stick, intending to deal with the two of them. Wang Pyong tried to stall for time, asking why the evil spirit possessed him and not his younger brother. Curly-haired guy said he was possessed from the time his younger brother murdered his first victim, the girl the mentally disabled guy liked but who had rejected him. Therefore, he killed her. Curly-haired guy felt powerless for not being able to stop his brother. In his weakest moment, the evil spirit had invaded his body. After recounting the story, curly-haired guy wanted to continue with his actions. Luckily, Kill Young arrived in time. She charged in, whacking him like she was swatting a cat. The mentally disabled guy, who wanted to save his brother, also got whacked several times. Curly-haired guy seized the opportunity to flee. Kill Young got into her car and chased after him, but unexpectedly, he punctured her car tire. The others turned and asked the mentally disabled guy where his brother would go. At this moment, the mentally disabled guy was very scared and couldn't say anything. Kill Young remembered short-haired woman. If she wasn't mistaken, he would go after the person who escaped. When Kill Young and Mateo arrived at short-haired woman's house, her daughter said her mother had gone to the supermarket. They quickly drove off to search for her. At this time, short-haired woman was being followed by curly-haired guy. She was very worried, ran back home, but in her panic, she dropped her keys. Curly-haired guy appeared and took her away. He brought short-haired woman to her mother's house and then took her into a secret basement. At this moment, the young priest saw that the intellectually disabled man had calmed down. He asked him where his brother had gone. After much persuasion, he told him, "If you want to save your brother, tell me his location. I will help free you from the demonic possession." The intellectually disabled man agreed to Mateo's proposal. After learning the location of the curly-haired man, Kill Young and Wang Pyong went to find him. The two of them charged in and beat him severely, causing him to scream like a madman. Afterward, the curly-haired man was knocked unconscious, and the short-haired woman was fortunate to escape with her life. Kill Young then led the curly-haired man to the car to take him to the station. Wang Pyong wanted her to give him some time to perform an exorcism on him first, lest he find his own way to meet the Grim Reaper. Kill Young agreed, But when they looked back, the curly-haired man was eating his own hand. Both of them tried to stop him, but the car doors were locked from the inside. They helplessly watched as the curly-haired man dug his own grave. The police quickly cordoned off the scene. At this point, the senior officer asked Kil-young about the curly-haired man's strange death. Kil-young also didn't understand. It had all been foreseen by Hwang-pyong. She was merely a witness. If what he said was true, then the world really did have demons. This matter was becoming increasingly complicated. The next day, Hwang-pyong met the young priest to ask about the possessed priest. He also admitted that he was the possessed child who had appeared in front of Mateo's house years ago. At that moment, the young priest understood the situation. He recounted that after his brother had massacred the entire family, he had disappeared completely and had never appeared before him. Hwang-pyong said that inside the possessed priest was the supreme evil spirit, Perino. The young priest couldn't believe it and turned away. Just then, a man climbed the mountain and accidentally discovered a skeleton. The police quickly identified the deceased. Unexpectedly, it was the possessed priest. Wasn't it supposed to be Park Roman-2-do's spirit that had possessed the priest? Hwang-pyong rushed to the scene to confirm, but the police wouldn't let him in. Hwang-pyong then went to the witness's house to inquire. The witness told Hwang-pyong that due to the rain washing away the soil, the skeleton had been exposed. Normally, the witness would pass by that location without noticing anything. Hearing this, Hwang-pyong became even more suspicious. On another side of things, Kil-young returned to the police station. She was suspended from duty for allowing the perpetrators of 2 recent cases to escape. One was dead, and the other was injured. It was the work of demons. How could she have stopped it? Even if she explained, the police would never believe her. So, feeling defeated, she turned and walked away. Outside, she received a phone call from the chief of police. He wanted to meet with Kil-young to tell her a secret. Meanwhile, the elderly priest and Mateo arrived at the police station to confirm the priest's possession. Seeing the relic made Mateo even more certain that this was his brother. After leaving, the two met a female politician. She was an acquaintance of the elderly priest. They often collaborated on charitable foundations. This time, the female politician came to find the police chief to make him stop investigating the skeleton. She was extremely displeased with the chief and warned that if he continued the investigation, it would surely cause major trouble. The female politician screamed as if possessed. It seemed she was connected to the death of the possessed priest. Moreover, a powerful spirit was occupying her body. That evening, Hwang-pyong returned to the site where the possessed priest's body was found to continue investigating his suspicions. There, he met Father Mateo, who was also investigating. Then, Kil-young arrived as well. The three got into a car and left to avoid being discovered by the police for trespassing on a crime scene. Kil-young took both of them to the possessed priest's house. It was then that she admitted that she was the daughter of the policewoman from years ago, the one who had gone into the house to rescue Mateo and had died there. She had only recently learned from the police chief that Mateo was the younger brother of the possessed priest. She had become a police officer in order to find her mother's killer. But unexpectedly, the possessed priest had died before she could find him. At this point, Hwang-pyong confessed that he was the child standing in front of the house who caused Kil-young's mother to get out of the car and go into the house, where she lost her life. Hwang-pyong confirmed that the person who killed Kil-young's mother was not the possessed priest, but rather the spirit Park Il-do who had possessed him. Hwang-pyong was the first to be possessed by the spirit Park Il-do after the possessed priest came to his house. The spirit Park Il-do then passed into his body. After hearing everything, Kil-young angrily punched Hwang-pyong hard, then got into her car and drove away. The next day, Father Mateo decided to have his brother's body cremated. Hwang-pyong came to offer condolences to Mateo for the demon Park Roman-2-do, into whom the young priest's brother had transformed, becoming a murderer. He had also lost his entire family in one night. Mateo was filled with hatred and determined to capture the demon alongside Hwang-pyong. Hwang-pyong warned that this endeavor would be very dangerous, but Mateo was resolved to see it through to the end. That evening, a long-haired woman was preparing to commit suicide. Suddenly, she received a text message that read, "Instead of harming yourself, harm everyone else." Afterward, the long-haired woman seemed to transform into a different person. She targeted a company director and attempted to kill him, but failed. At this time, the police received a report about a missing office worker, so they went to his house to investigate, but to no avail. Later, the police went to his office, where his colleague revealed that he had a girlfriend. Therefore, the police invited the long-haired woman to the station for questioning. Observing her demeanor, Kil Young knew she was hiding something, but lacking concrete evidence, they had to release her. Upon returning home, the long-haired woman sought out Father Mateo. She stated that she had been possessed, but seeing her behavior, Mateo advised her to seek psychiatric treatment at a hospital. When she mentioned the name of the demon possessing her, the young priest felt a pang of shock. It was unexpectedly Park Roman Tudu. That evening, the young priest invited Hwang Pyong to the long-haired woman's house. They discovered she was preparing to harm someone else, so they quickly intervened to stop her. Hwang Pyong noticed a magazine from an organization in her bag. At this point, the long-haired woman, held back by Hwang Pyong and the young priest, loudly claimed that she was being assaulted. People came and pulled the two men away, giving the woman a chance to run inside. The police also quickly arrived, believing Hwang Pyong and Mateo to be perverts, and were about to take them to the station. Luckily, Kil Young arrived to defuse the situation. Suddenly, the door to the woman's house opened. She had cut her wrists. Everyone was stunned at the sight. Afterward, the police took the young woman to the hospital, while Hwang Pyong and the priest were arrested and taken to the station. At the hospital, Kil Young questioned the long-haired woman about whether she had harmed her boyfriend and then hidden his body. She not only admitted it, but also directed Detective Kang to the location where she had hidden her boyfriend's body. Kil Young and her senior officer quickly set off, but on the way, Kil Young suddenly remembered Hwang Pyong's words. She should be careful of those possessed, like those who had been possessed before. She also knew what terrible things could happen. Kil Young told her senior to go to the location where the long-haired woman had hidden the body, while she would return to the hospital. Unexpectedly, when Kil Young returned, the woman was gone. Meanwhile, the senior officer found the car where the long-haired woman had hidden her boyfriend's body. At this time, Hwang Pyong was at the police station. He was possessed again and saw the long-haired woman attacking the director. The young priest, noticing Hwang Pyong's strange behavior, went to check on him. Hwang Pyong, controlled by the spirit, restrained Mateo. Hwang returned in time and managed to bring him back to his senses. Then, Hwang Pyong told Kil Young that the scene he saw in his dream was an office with several toy model tanks. Hwang remembered the director's office that she had visited earlier that morning. She told Hwang Pyong to go home with the priest, but Hwang Pyong wanted to follow, despite Detective Kang's refusal. She and her senior officer then went to the office. Upon arriving, they split up. While the senior officer was walking alone, the long-haired woman suddenly appeared behind him and grabbed his shirt. Meanwhile, Hwang Pyong also wanted to investigate on his own. He asked Priest Mateo to break into the long-haired woman's house. Just then, her roommate returned. Through her roommate's account, they learned that the long-haired woman's boyfriend had not been murdered but had taken his own life. The reason was that he had been so stressed by his co-workers' harassment that he had become suicidal. The long-haired woman was also deeply distraught by her boyfriend's death and had thus created an opportunity for an evil spirit to take over her body. Then, it helped the long-haired woman seek revenge for her boyfriend. After learning this, Hwang Pyong went to the boyfriend's office. On the way, Hwang Pyong was possessed again. He saw that the senior officer was seriously injured. Hwang Pyong lost focus, causing the car to nearly crash, but fortunately the priest reacted quickly. After that, Hwang Pyong informed Kil Young that the senior officer was in danger. Upon hearing this, she rushed to find Detective Kang and found the director covered in blood, so she went to call for an ambulance. While Kil Young was distracted, the long-haired woman suddenly rushed out and attacked, seriously injuring her. After that, the long-haired woman tied Kil Young and the director in a room. Then, the evil spirit possessing the woman's body told Kil Young that it wanted to avenge the people who had harmed her boyfriend. Kil Young asked the demon inside the woman if it was Park Il-do. This question enraged her, saying this was the last time she could mention that name. After she dealt with the director, Kil Young would be next. The long-haired woman held a knife and moved toward the director, but Kil Young used the last of her strength to push her over. She was furious, intending to bury Kil Young alive. Luckily, Hwang Pyong and the priest arrived just in time. Hearing their calls, the long-haired girl quickly fled. The two of them immediately split up, chasing her in different directions. The pastor was running his lungs out, while Hwang Pyong was more clever. He rammed the long-haired girl with his car, then got out intending to apprehend her, but she fought back. Just then, the priest arrived and held a crucifix to the long-haired girl. As a result, she released Hwang Pyong and collapsed unconscious. Afterward, Hwang Pyong returned to the office to rescue Kil Young. They also found the elder who had been captured. At this point, the priest took the long-haired girl away for exorcism. Hwang Pyong and Kil Young also wanted to help. The demon inside the long-haired girl manipulated their minds, one by one. It brought back the painful departure of Kil Young's mother, threatening to harm Hwang Pyong's grandfather. It tried to break up the three of them, but they all persevered. Hwang Pyong took out a picture of her boyfriend, encouraging her to live for him and for the child in her womb. Unexpectedly, the girl was pregnant. The young priest wanted to help her drive out the demon within her body, saving the lives of both mother and child. The ritual completed, the girl roared, "Park Ramen 2 dog," then spewed out a pile of seawater and fell limp. Finally, after much effort, the three of them helped her drive away the evil spirit. The next day, Kil Young met with Hwang Pyong and the priest. After all that had happened, she finally believed Hwang Pyong. Officer Kang wanted to join the two of them to capture the demon Park Ramen 2 dog to avenge her mother and prevent it from continuing its rampage. Father Mateo disagreed because it was too dangerous. She was a police officer and knew nothing about spirits. The two got into an argument. Mateo turned and left. At this point, Hwang Pyong spoke up. He wanted her to join. At least she needed to know about the demon that had harmed her mother. The next day, Hwang Pyong took the shaman to the place where the possessed priest's body was found. Once again, they wanted to understand the real cause of his death. The shaman began a spirit-calling ceremony. After being possessed, he began digging nearby. They found another body. The police determined that it was the body of a female student who had disappeared 20 years ago, around the time of the possessed priest's case. Hwang Pyong called Kil Young to inform her of this news. Unexpectedly, she knew about this female student. The disappearance of the female student was an incredibly strange case, and the person investigating that case was Officer Kang's mother. After turning off the device, Kil Young rummaged through her mother's belongings and discovered her investigation journal. In it, her mother had recorded information she'd found about the case of the female student. Kil Young uncovered the name of a suspect her mother had investigated, none other than Assemblywoman Park Hongju. Meanwhile, Father Mateo also discovered a common thread among those who were possessed. He realized that they all knew Assemblywoman Park and had received charity from her organization. Father Mateo reported this to Hwang Pyong, who in turn told Detective Kang, stating that the suspect in the missing student case from 20 years ago was also Assemblywoman Park. This couldn't just be a coincidence. Through her mother's investigation journal, Kil Young found a witness, the security guard at the school where the female student and Assemblywoman Park had both attended 20 years prior. On the night the student went missing, he had seen Assemblywoman Park at the school. However, the security guard later changed his statement, undoubtedly due to being threatened by someone. Currently, the security guard was suffering from mental illness and was hospitalized. Hwang Pyong and Kil Young went to see him. Hwang Pyong noticed the guard drawing something on the ground, which turned out to be the symbol of the demon Park Il-du. He took out a photo of the Assemblywoman and asked if that was the person he was drawing. Upon seeing the photo, the guard became incredibly panicked, confirming that the person who had threatened him was indeed Assemblywoman Park. The following day, Hwang Pyong told Father Mateo about this. However, Mateo responded that Assemblywoman Park could not be possessed by Park Il-du at all, because just the night before, he'd seen her at the church praying. If she was possessed by a demon, she couldn't set foot in a church. But all the clues pointed to her. There was clearly a significant secret behind all this. At this point, Hwang Pyong and Father Mateo met an elderly priest. He shared an important piece of information. If the demon completely took over the possessed person, it would no longer fear the cross or the Bible, and would still be able to enter a church. There had been similar cases in the world. When a demon inhabited a body for too long, it could take complete control. So, had Assemblywoman Park become completely possessed? The next morning, the three Hwang Pyong, Kil Young, and Mateo went to meet another witness, a classmate of the female student who had died 20 years ago. Through the witness's testimony, Hwang Pyong's group learned that the female student had been physically abused and harmed by Assemblywoman Park. After discovering this, the friend had reported it to the security guard. When the security guard investigated, he only saw what appeared to be a normal argument, and the female student was later taken to the hospital by Assemblywoman Park. However, the next day at school, her friend learned that the female student had run away from home. Her friend didn't believe this, so she told a female police officer who was investigating the disappearance. Subsequently, the female police officer passed away forever during a separate case investigation. This police officer was Kil Young's mother. Many years later, Kil Young sought out the security guard to ask about that evening. However, the security guard now exhibited abnormal behavior. He prevented her from mentioning the matter and warned that if she persisted in investigating, she would meet the same end as the police officer. Kil Young intended to have her friend testify as a witness, but her friend now had a family. She feared that if she became involved in this complex matter, her whole family would be in danger. Kil Young understood her friend's situation, so she reluctantly left. At this point, Hwang Pyong approached Congressman Park to confirm if the demon Park Ildu was inside her. However, Congressman Park didn't reveal any vulnerabilities, even when Father Mateo performed an exorcism and presented her with a crucifix. She still managed to conceal the demon within her. Only when she went to the bathroom did she show signs of distress. Hwang Pyong then devised another method to verify. Someone possessed by Park Il-du would be like him as a child, they're right, I wouldn't be able to see clearly. He decided he needed to find a way to prove this. That evening, Kil Young received a phone call reporting that the security guard in the mental institution had disappeared. After Kil Young and Mateo had met with him, his mental illness showed signs of improvement. He was no longer screaming or drawing nonsensically, but was constantly muttering a name. Upon hearing this name, Kil Young became worried because it was the name of the female student's friend who was harmed 20 years ago, the person her group had just met yesterday. She realized that her friend was in danger. This time, Hwang Pyong also foresaw the next crime that was about to happen. He informed Mateo and immediately rushed to the friend's house. But unexpectedly, upon arrival, her friend had been murdered. The security guard also stabbed himself in the eye and died soon after. Fortunately, her friend's son was still alive. At this point, Hwang Pyong was extremely angry. He wanted to find Congressman Park to destroy her and put an end to everything. However, Mateo stopped him. They had an argument, and in his anger, Hwang Pyong punched Mateo and left. At this moment, he couldn't think any further. All he wanted was to destroy the vessel of Park Roman II. Hwang Pyong rushed to where Representative Park was, asking her if she was Park Roman II. The representative simply smiled and brought up Hwang Pyong's past. Right then, he was certain that the person before him was possessed by Park Roman II. Otherwise, why would she know about the harm done to his mother and grandmother? Hwang Pyong grabbed a knife, intending to deal with her, but was stopped by the bodyguards. Representative Park demanded that Hwang Pyong be handed over to the police, then let out a sinister smile. Kil Young and Father Mateo arrived and witnessed it all. They became even more convinced that Representative Park was indeed Park Roman II. The next day, Mateo had an older priest make connections to meet with Representative Park. He wanted to ask her not to prosecute Hwang Pyong. Unexpectedly, she easily agreed to this. Subsequently, Hwang Pyong was released as well. However, that night, he was stalked by someone. The stalker threatened Hwang Pyong not to attempt to approach Representative Park, or there would be severe consequences. Hwang Pyong decided to go back to his hometown for a while. During a meal, an elderly woman suddenly came looking for his grandfather. She said that her granddaughter in the city was showing symptoms exactly like Hwang Pyong had when he was young. The girl constantly saw ghosts and had psychic abilities like him. Hwang Pyong's grandfather didn't want him to get involved in this matter any further, so he sent the old woman away. But given his personality, Hwang Pyong couldn't easily ignore such an important matter. That night, he went to find the old woman to ask for the address of her granddaughter in the city. the old woman wanted to ask Huang Piang to find someone who could perform an exorcism to drive away the spirits that were clinging to her granddaughter. The next morning, Huang Piang went to the girl's house as per the old woman's instructions. There, he met the girl's mother, but the mother adamantly refused to let him see her daughter. Feeling helpless, he returned. Right after he went outside, Huang Piang witnessed a crime. The victim happened to be the husband of the woman he had just met. The police immediately arrived at the scene to investigate. When she saw Huang Piang, Kang quickly pulled him aside. He told her the reason for his being there. After that, Officer Kang interrogated the wife. Observing her behavior, Kil Young realized that the wife was hiding something. After the police left, the grandmother also came to visit the family, as she heard about her son-in-law's accident. She told her daughter to find an exorcist for her granddaughter, as her husband's death might be related to the spirits that were possessing the girl. However, the mother still insisted that her daughter was not possessed. The next day, the mother was called to the police station for another statement. The police had learned that the family had a history of frequent disputes and that the couple was divorced. But why had the husband come to see his ex-wife? At that moment, the wife became furious, enraged that the police were digging into her personal affairs. She claimed that she knew nothing and had no involvement in her husband's death. The wife's attitude only fueled Kil Young's suspicions. Could she be the one who assassinated her husband? Meanwhile, taking advantage of the mother's absence, the grandmother led Huang Piang and Father Mateo to perform an exorcism on her granddaughter. Through the girl's words, Huang Piang learned that she had been seeing many ghosts recently. They were getting closer and closer to her. Among them was a female ghost in red, who often appeared beside her father. Whenever the girl mentioned this red ghost, both her mother and father would become angry. Clearly, this red ghost had some connection to the couple. At this point, Mateo began the exorcism. However, the girl showed no reaction, indicating she was not yet possessed. Just then, the mother returned. She became angry to find Huang Piang and Father Mateo in her house. Suddenly, the girl saw the ghost standing beside her mother. This time, the girl was truly possessed. Huang Piang restrained her so Mateo could perform the exorcism. Seeing her daughter in pain, the mother became worried and called the police. Fortunately, the demon had just recently entered the girl's body, so Mateo was able to easily expel it. In the end, both of them were able to breathe a sigh of relief. The mother, though not understanding what had just happened, anxiously hugged her daughter tightly. That evening, Huang Piang asked Kil Young to investigate the woman in red from the girl's description. They discovered that this woman had been in an accident and died 2 months ago. If they weren't mistaken, the girl's father was the one who had caused the accident. That was why the red ghost spirit was haunting him. Kil Young informed Huang Piang of this, and they wanted to confirm one more thing. Unexpectedly, the one who had killed the father was his own daughter. The red ghost had been haunting the father, causing the girl to see her father as a ghost. Overcome with fear, she had picked up a rock and thrown it at his head. She always carried a large rock in her bag. Someone had once told her that to drive away ghosts, she just needed to throw rocks at them. The mother also knew that her daughter was responsible for her husband's death, but she deliberately concealed it from the police to protect her child. After everything was brought to light, Huang Piang was still left with one question. If the host is dead, where will the red ghost go? Mateo suddenly gasped, saying that the demon would possess the person with the weakest spirit. Could it be the girl? She had just been exorcised, so her spirit was still vulnerable. Meanwhile, the girl started exhibiting strange behavior. Her complexion was incredibly pale. Then, she opened the door, led a horde of demons into the house, and went outside alone. The Huang Piang group arrived there, but they didn't find her. At that point, they shared their thoughts with the mother. Knowing she couldn't continue to hide the truth, she admitted everything. She took full responsibility, acknowledging that she was the one who had caused her daughter to be possessed. Huang Piang predicted that it wouldn't be long before the girl returned to harm her mother, because the mother had helped the father conceal the crimes he had committed against the woman in red. They set up an ambush outside the house. As expected, the girl called her mother and arranged a meeting, but she didn't want anyone to come along. The mother misled the Huang Piang group and hurriedly went to meet her daughter. Upon learning this, the whole group rushed to find her, splitting up and searching in different directions. While searching, Mateo unexpectedly encountered Hwang Pyong in an alley. He was standing there, dazed because he was using his psychic abilities. Hwang Pyong saw the girl attacking her mother. They quickly determined the location of the attack. Upon arriving, the group found the mother lying unconscious on the ground. Mateo and Hwang Pyong went to find the girl, while Kil Young stayed behind to call an ambulance for the mother. After searching for a while, the priest discovered the girl in a basement. He called Hwang Pyong to inform him. Suddenly, the basement door closed. The girl had something private she needed to discuss with Mateo. After that, the priest bound the girl and performed an exorcism. They thought everything was going well, but the girl informed the priest that Mateo's parents and brother were present. They were resentful that he was the only one who had survived. The priest started to feel a sense of oppression from the surrounding spirits. At this moment, Hwang Pyong arrived at the basement door. He tried to break the door down but couldn't get in. When Kil Young arrived, she saw Hwang Pyong entering a psychic state again. Hwang Pyong saw many demons surrounding Mateo. Then, he was brought back to reality by Officer Kang. Hwang Pyong said the priest was in danger. Suddenly, the door opened. Mateo walked out, his face pale, and his body seemingly drained of energy. Kil Young quickly took him to the hospital. In the hospital, the priest had a nightmare. He woke up with a start. The first thing he remembered was the possessed girl. If they didn't perform the exorcism soon, she would be in danger. Despite his body being completely drained of energy, he still asked to be taken to her to perform the ritual. Mateo told Hwang Pyong that the demon's energy this time was resisting his exorcism, possibly because of a charm containing some kind of power. Hwang Pyong was tasked with finding that charm. He discovered it in his father's car. The shaman temporarily sealed the amulet's energy to dispose of it. Meanwhile, Kil Young and the priest restrained the possessed girl, then took her to her mother at the hospital. Mateo believed that when the girl saw her mother, her spirit would react against the evil spirits possessing her. The priest began the exorcism, but the moment he looked into the child's eyes, he was overwhelmed. However, Mateo was determined not to give up. At the same time, Hwang Pyong was trying to destroy the amulet containing the energy until it was completely annihilated. The priest's exorcism finally succeeded. The demons inside the girl shrieked in pain as they were expelled. Exhausted, the girl fell into her mother's arms, repeatedly apologizing for her wrongdoings. The mother comforted her, saying, "It's good that we're both okay." A few days later, the girl recovered well. Hwang Pyong and the priest asked her, "Among the evil spirits that were clinging to you, was there one with only one eye?" It turned out the girl had encountered Park Roman 2 once when her father took her out. If she saw him again now, she would definitely recognize him. Hwang Pyong wanted to take the girl to meet Representative Park Roman 2, but the priest stopped him, as the girl had just recovered and couldn't endure another shock. However, the girl overheard their conversation. She wanted to help them confirm whether the female representative was a vessel for the demon Park Roman 2. The next day, the priest took the girl to the church. Upon seeing Representative Park, the girl became terrified because she actually saw a demonic spirit. However, the spirit following Representative Park was not Park Roman 2, but the female student who was murdered 20 years ago. That evening, the female representative went to a sewer. There, she met the ghost of Park Roman 2. She asked the demon to deal with the 3 people who were tailing her, Kil Young, Mateo, and the priest. On another side, Hwang Pyong went to the young priest's home. He wanted to reinvestigate the death of Mateo's brother. Among his brother's belongings, Mateo took out a pair of rings. Hwang Pyong was surprised, because these were his parents' wedding rings. At that moment, a man returned to the secret room. It looked dark and sinister. When he removed his hood, they were astonished. It turned out to be Hwang Pyong's father. He clasped his hands in prayer, "Please drive out Park Roman 2. The next day, Hwang Pyong asked Kil Young to find his father. She wanted to know why his wedding rings were in the possession of the possessed priest. Through investigation, they found out he was living in an organization for the homeless. Hwang Pyong went to this organization to find his father. When his father saw Hwang Pyong, he immediately ran away. He still believed that the demon Park Roman 2 was possessing his son. The father attacked his son with a knife, causing minor injuries. Seeing his father's current state, Hwang Pyong decided to let him go. That evening, Father Mateo, taking H. Wang Pyong's place, went to question the father. He still believed that H. Wang Pyong was sent by Park Roman Tu-du to harm him. But when Mateo revealed that he was the younger brother of the priest who was possessed 20 years ago, the father finally let him in. Through the father's story, the priest learned the full details. After the massacre of the entire family, the older brother ran up the mountain, effectively logging out of the game. H. Wang Pyong's father tried to stop him. The possessed priest grabbed the ring finger of H. Wang Pyong's father and broke it. That was why H. Wang Pyong's father's wedding ring was in the possessed man's possession. At that point, the father took out several notebooks. Unexpectedly, he had spent 20 years searching for people named Park Roman Tu-du, trying to find out why that evil spirit refused to dissipate and remained in the human world. However, in 20 years, the father had not found anyone with a similar name. It could be said that the name Park Roman Tu-du was made up, and it didn't actually exist. The next day, the priest told H. Wang Pyong and Kil Young about this. He believed that H. Wang Pyong's father was trying to prove that his son was not Park Roman Tu-du. Hearing this, H. Wang Pyong became angry again. He didn't need those things. What he needed was the true love of a father, something his father had never given him. H. Wang Pyong angrily stormed off. The next day, Kil Young and the priest went to H. Wang Pyong's hometown to investigate the Park Roman Tu-du legend. Following the villagers' instructions, they found H. Wang Pyong's grandfather. He was the oldest person there and had witnessed the demon's arrival at the house. The two went straight to the point. What was Park Roman Tu-du's background? H. Wang Pyong's grandfather took out a box of documents and told the story of the first person to be possessed 60 years ago. The man soaked himself in the sea for 3 days and 3 nights, then stabbed himself in the eyes with a knife. From then on, the legend of the demon Park Roman Tu-du was born. At this moment, H. Wang Pyong seeks out his father, wanting to know why he was driven away 20 years ago. Furthermore, his father even tried to harm his own son. Now, the father no longer wants to hide anything from H. Wang Pyong. He reveals that the events of that year were all due to his own father's H. Wang Pyong's grandfather's instigation. The grandfather had said that H. Wang Pyong was a demon, and that Park Il-du had killed his mother and grandmother, so he needed to be eliminated. At that time, H. Wang Pyong had always thought his father's actions stemmed from hatred towards him, but it turned out it was all orchestrated by his grandfather. Could it be that his grandfather is actually Park Il-du? H. Wang Pyong calls his grandfather, asking why he had lied to him. His grandfather tries to explain, saying it was his father's doing and that he never gave the orders. Ultimately, between the two of them, who is the liar? H. Wang Pyong returns to his hometown to investigate his grandfather. He discovers his grandfather has left the house. H. Wang Pyong finds many bus tickets for trips to his city, but his grandfather has never once visited him there. So what was he doing there? H. Wang Pyong's suspicions of his grandfather deepen. Meanwhile, the grandfather meets with the father. The grandfather's expression is terrifying as he asks the father, "Why did you let H. Wang Pyong find out about that?" That evening, the father meets with H. Wang Pyong again. He tells H. Wang Pyong that his grandfather is Park Il-du. The father looks terrified, urging H. Wang Pyong to run away. Suddenly, someone calls the father. After taking the call, he becomes possessed. H. Wang Pyong senses that his father is now harming another person. Just as he regains his senses, his father enters. The father says, "H. Wang Pyong, you should have died a long time ago." Then, he lunges at him. The father nearly strangles H. Wang Pyong. Suddenly, someone peeks in the door, and the father startles and runs off. H. Wang Pyong gets up and chases after him. He discovers that the man who peeked in has been killed by his father. But the local people saw H. Wang Pyong inside the victim's room. He becomes a suspect in a murder case. H. Wang Pyong continues to run and look for his father. The police quickly arrive at the crime scene. Through security footage, they identify 2 suspects, H. Wang Pyong and his father. Kil Young calls H. Wang Pyong, requesting that he come to the station for questioning. Otherwise, his charges would become even more serious. H. Wang Pyong is still busy searching for his father, and he cannot comply with Kang's request. If he doesn't find him soon, his father could do something terrible. Afterward, H. Wang Pyong sought out Father Mateo, asking him to help find his father and then perform an exorcism on him. The priest agreed to accompany Hwang Pyong. They went to the place where his father was most likely to be, but despite waiting, he didn't appear. Hwang Pyong then remembered another place, and when he returned home, he encountered his grandfather. Hwang Pyong asked his grandfather how he knew where his house was since he had never brought him to visit. He then questioned whether his grandfather was Park Il-do. His grandfather denied it and, in anger, even struck Hwang Pyong. Angered himself, Hwang Pyong left without saying a word. Meanwhile, Kil Young was frantically searching for Hwang Pyong. She tried contacting him and Father Mateo, but neither answered their phones. Then, Detective Kang arrived at Hoa Pi's house and encountered him. She immediately gave chase to apprehend Hwang Pyong. Hwang Pyong attempted to flee, but was blocked by the older officer's car. He was handcuffed and taken to the police station for questioning. At the station, Hwang Pyong was extremely anxious, stating that he wasn't the perpetrator. The real perpetrator was his father, and he just wanted to find him. Kil Young knew that what Hwang Pyong said was true, but that truth was only known to the two of them and couldn't be explained to others. Detective Kang then decided to search for Hwang Pyong's father in his place. Following that, she located Father Mateo. It was then that Detective Kang revealed something she had discovered through her investigation, but hadn't yet shared with Mateo and Hwang Pyong. Park Il-do had actually once been a human. He had harmed his entire family, stabbed himself in his right eye, and then submerged himself in the East Sea. He constantly claimed that he was not human. Park Il-do did all that to transform himself into a supreme evil spirit. The reason Park Il-do's identity had never been discovered was that he came from a powerful family. Because of the terrible things he did, his family had struck him from their family registry. Kil Young learned this because she had met the son of someone who had worked in that family 60 years ago. The true identity of Park Il-do was that he was the younger brother of Senator Park Hong-ju's grandfather. On another front, Senator Park visited her own father to ask about the person who had been helping her all these years. Upon hearing the name Park Il-do, her father was shocked. Wasn't he supposed to have ascended already? How was he helping her? He recounted the entire incident from that year to the senator. Park Il-do was indeed the younger brother of the senator's grandfather. He was notorious for being a troublemaker. After harming his wife and daughter, Park Il-do had logged out himself. The name Park Il-do was never to be mentioned again. Now, the father looked at the senator. She truly did have a resemblance to the demon Park Il-do. Senator Park gave her father a strange look. At this moment, Father Mateo received a call from Hwang Pyong's father. He said he was going to find Hwang Pyong to end everything, something that should have been done 20 years ago. The father intended to send his son to meet his maker with his own hands. Mateo called Kil Young to inform her of this news. She was at the scene of the murder committed by Hwang Pyong's father. Suddenly, Officer Kang spotted a suspicious individual. She quickly chased after him, apprehended him, and brought him back to the station. This person was a witness who saw Hwang Pyong's father commit the murder. Hwang Pyong was exonerated and released. Then, the priest went to tell Hwang Pyong that his father had contacted Mateo and said that he would return to the place where it all began to end everything. Hwang Pyong remembered something, and he urgently called his grandfather, but he didn't answer. They all hurriedly drove back to Hwang Pyong's house in his hometown. Meanwhile, the grandfather returned home and was immediately met by his son, who was already waiting for him there. The grandfather embraced his son, emotionally saying, "You've finally come home." At that moment, he noticed strange signs in his son's behavior, realizing it was the sign of someone possessed. He tried to take out his phone to call Hwang Pyong, but his son noticed. The son pulled out a knife, threatening him, "You don't need to call. He will come back, and we will end everything." This made the grandfather extremely worried. On their way back, Hwang Pyong had a premonition of his grandfather being harmed. He didn't arrive in time. The grandfather had been brutally stabbed by his own son. With his last bit of strength, he apologized to Hwang Pyong. Years ago, it was the grandfather who incited and plotted to assassinate Hwang Pyong because he didn't want to see him become a demon like Park Il-do. Hwang Pyong was in immense pain. The grandfather also fell unconscious. Kil Young tried to administer first aid, but it was ineffective. Afterward, they began searching for the father. Hwang Pyong discovered that he was planning to run into the mountains, so he quickly chased after him. At a certain bend in the road, Hwang Pyong lost track of his father, so he looked around to search for him. Suddenly, the father restrained Hwang Pyong from behind. He reached into his pocket and took out a ring. When the father saw the wedding ring, he regained his consciousness. He realized he had made a grave mistake, so he told Hwang Pyong to go back. After that, the father continued to run deeper into the forest. Hwang Pyong continued to chase him. He saw that his father was about to take his own life, so he quickly tried to stop him. The demon in the father's body roared, "You and everyone around you will pay the price." Afterward, he ended his own life. Hwang Pyong couldn't save his father and cried out in despair. Now, Hwang Pyong is in immense pain. His father has passed away, and his grandfather is in the hospital. Neither of them was Park Il-do. Hwang Pyong no longer sees any motivation to live. He remembered his father's words, "You and everyone around you will pay the price." Hwang Pyong was afraid of bringing harm to everyone, so he told them that he would stop pursuing the demon Park Il-do. But Kil Young and Father Mateo, even now, refused to give up. After witnessing so much, they were determined to capture the demonic spirit of Park Roman-tu-do. They had to punish it for the wrongs it had committed. At this point, the elderly priest arranged to meet with Mateo. He suggested, could Hwang Pyong be the one possessed by the demon Park Roman-tu-do? Mateo had once suspected Hwang Pyong. However, after so many trials and tribulations, he had come to trust Hwang Pyong. The elderly priest continued, 20 years ago, when that incident occurred, there were only 5 people in that room. Your brother and Hwang Pyong's father, who are both deceased, and his grandfather, who is in the hospital. That leaves only you and him. The elderly priest asserted that he wasn't possessed, leaving Hwang Pyong as the only possibility. The priest theorized that the demon could be residing within Hwang Pyong without his knowledge. Because Hwang Pyong was too young at the time, he wouldn't have been able to sense it, which is why he's only reacting to the demon now. Moreover, the demons Mateo had encountered previously confirmed that anyone near Hwang Pyong would suffer misfortune. Mateo was once again filled with doubt. Father Mateo resolved to investigate this matter thoroughly. The next day, he went to find the shaman, the one who had performed the exorcism for Hwang Pyong 20 years prior. Surprisingly, she still clearly remembered everything that had happened that day. The blind shaman said that the demon inside Hwang Pyong's body was too powerful. She couldn't expel it. She could only temporarily seal its energy. However, the seal's time was almost up. The demon would break free once more, completely possessing Hwang Pyong's body, turning him into a true devil. Upon hearing this, Mateo was utterly shocked and worried. He didn't know what to do to help Hwang Pyong. As for Hwang Pyong himself, he began to display strange symptoms. As a child, he could see spirits, and now his right eye was throbbing with pain. Hwang Pyong asked the elderly shaman about this, but the shaman said that perhaps the talisman sealing his powers was weakening. He advised Hwang Pyong to stay home, but Hwang Pyong was still determined to find the demon Park Il-do. It turned out, Hwang Pyong hadn't truly given up. He was just afraid that Kil Young and Father Mateo would be in danger, so he had lied to them that he was no longer pursuing Park Il-do. In another development, Kil Young was following Congresswoman Park, thinking she would meet the demon Park Il-do. But unexpectedly, it was the old priest who appeared. The next day, Kil Young met with Father Mateo and shared her hypothesis. She suggested that Park Il-do might be inside Hwang Pyong without his knowledge, because out of the 5 people who were present at Hwang Pyong's house at that time, only he and the old priest remained. Kil Young then mentioned the previous night, when she had followed Congresswoman Park and discovered she had met with the old priest in the middle of the night. If considering who is suspicious, perhaps the old priest is the one who is likely to be Park Il-do. That evening, Kil Young returned home and discovered a stranger had broken into her room. She managed to chase the man in black, catching him, and recognized him as Congresswoman Park's bodyguard. However, Detective Kang let him get away. Just then, her senior colleague came to look for Kil Young. When he discovered she was chasing the man in black, he also ran after them. Unfortunately, the senior colleague was fatally stabbed. Kil Young, worried for him, didn't pursue any further. Afterwards, Officer Kang took the senior officer to the hospital. She told her superior that she knew the culprit was Assemblyman Park's bodyguard, but her superior was helpless upon hearing this. He didn't want to get involved with someone as dangerous as her. Meanwhile, the senior officer was alone in his hospital room. Suddenly, someone approached, startling him. Then, the senior officer arranged to meet with Kil Young, saying he wanted to take her to someone who knew about the Demon Park Il-do. Officer Kang, suspecting nothing, got into the car with him. In another development, Hwang Pyong went to find the elderly priest. He had discovered that the person who had called his father right before he was possessed was indeed the elderly priest. He confronted the priest about it. The elderly priest said that Hwang Pyong's grandfather had asked him to persuade his father to come home. Suddenly, Hwang Pyong noticed that the crucifix in the elderly priest's room was hanging upside down. He remembered that on the day the Demon Park Il-do transferred from his brother to someone else, there were 5 people present, and now only he and the elderly priest remained. Hwang Pyong began to suspect that the possessed one was actually the elderly priest. Afterwards, Hwang Pyong excused himself to leave. The elderly priest, realizing that Hwang Pyong had figured something out, immediately called Mateo to mislead him. He told Mateo to no longer trust anything Hwang Pyong said, because he might try to mislead them by claiming that the priest himself was the Demon Park Il-do. At this point, Hwang Pyong began to surveil the elderly priest. Unexpectedly, Mateo appeared. He wanted to clarify his own suspicions and check if Hwang Pyong was really the Demon Park Il-do or not. Mateo tested him by blindfolding Hwang Pyong, but he could still see the priest clearly. Mateo was shocked when Hwang Pyong entered a state of extrasensory perception. In this state, Hwang Pyong saw that Kil Young was in danger. He quickly called her to warn her. Unexpectedly, the senior officer was also possessed. He was about to attack Kil Young. Upon hearing Hwang Pyong's phone call, Officer Kang tried to jump out of the car, causing it to crash. Luckily, she only suffered minor injuries, but the senior officer had vanished. Suddenly, he reappeared behind Kil Young with a terrifying face. Then, the senior officer, wielding a knife, repeatedly attacked her, but none of the attacks connected. Kil Young seized the opportunity to flee, but he followed her to an abandoned building. Kil Young managed to hide in a room. Unable to get to her, the senior officer angrily went to another room and climbed across the balcony into Kil Young's room. He was like a mad beast, lunging to attack her, causing her to hit her head on the wall and pass out. Then, the senior officer, still possessed, lifted Kil Young and threw her down below. Fortunately, she managed to grab onto a rope. Just at that moment, Hwang Pyong and the priest arrived at the abandoned building. They saw Officer Kang hanging precariously on the edge of death. The senior officer saw them and ran away. Hwang Pyong and the priest split up, pursuing the senior officer relentlessly. Meanwhile, Hwang Pyong came to Kil Young's rescue. He grabbed Officer Kang's hand just before she collapsed from exhaustion. With all his strength, he pulled her back from the brink of death. Afterward, Hwang Pyong got her into the car and called Mateo to update him. Suddenly, the elder tried to sneak an attack from behind on Hwang Pyong, but Hwang Pyong noticed and used pepper spray and handcuffs to subdue him. Hwang Pyong waited for Father Mateo to arrive to perform an exorcism on the elder. When Mateo arrived, he saw the elder chanting to try to manipulate Hwang Pyong. The priest quickly called out to Hwang Pyong to wake up. The demon inside the elder told them that Park Il-do would definitely come looking for Hwang Pyong because he was the perfect vessel for that supreme spirit. Now, everyone also confirmed that Hwang Pyong was not currently possessed by Park Il-do. Next, Father Mateo decided to perform an exorcism on the elder. However, Father Mateo's spiritual power had become too weak, and the holy water was not enough to expel the demon. They had to find a new way. Mateo asked Hwang Pyong to help him find a source of water to mix with the holy water. Hwang Pyong ran around the rooms and found the water source, then informed Father Mateo. He began to perform a ritual to make the holy water. The 3 of them submerged the elder in the sacred water, and Father Mateo began to chant. Hwang Pyong helped Kil Young hold the elder firmly. The demon inside him began to writhe in pain, screaming, "Park Il-do, avenge me." Then, the elder spewed out a mouthful of seawater. Finally, the exorcism was successful. Mateo was completely exhausted. The next day, Kil Young woke up in the hospital. She was grateful that Hwang Pyong and Mateo had come to save her and bring the elder back. Officer Kang also understood why Hwang Pyong didn't want her to continue looking for Park Il-do, because he was afraid she would be in danger like she had been this time. However, that only made Kil Young more determined to help Hwang Pyong catch the demon. After the recent ritual, Father Mateo was clearly weakened. Harmful dark energy began to appear on his body. If he continued to perform rituals, Mateo might not be able to endure it. At this time, the young priest still had doubts about Hwang Pyong. He went to investigate at the shaman's place. The shaman told Mateo that recently, Hwang Pyong had been experiencing eye pain. It was then that the shaman realized and asked, "Could it be that you suspect Hwang Pyong is Park Il-do?" The priest didn't deny it, because a demon had told him that Park Il-do's demonic spirit was still in Hwang Pyong's house. The shaman suspected that someone had placed a curse in Hwang Pyong's house, causing him to exhibit signs similar to Park Il-do's demonic spirit. The shaman decided to visit Hwang Pyong's hometown to investigate. After leaving the shaman's house, Father Mateo decided to check on Hwang Pyong once more to see if he was possessed by the demon spirit, Park Il-do. Mateo discovered that Hwang Pyong's eyes were hurting, and he mistook him for his deceased father, which made Mateo even more suspicious. Hwang Pyong, wanting to clear things up with Mateo, agreed to let the priest perform an exorcism on him to ensure he wasn't possessed by the spirit of Park Il-do. After the exorcism, Hwang Pyong was completely normal, so Mateo truly believed him. But that led to another possibility. The only one left who could be possessed by a demon was the old priest. Mateo couldn't believe this was true because, as a child, the old priest had loved and cared for him like his own son, and he also considered him like a father. Mateo couldn't accept the thought that someone who had treated him so well could be a demon in disguise. In a separate development, the shaman arrived at Hwang Pyong's hometown. He used magic to find where the demon spirit Park Il-do had hidden the talisman. The shaman discovered something buried in the ground and hurriedly dug it up. Unexpectedly, he was attacked by a ghost. Badly injured, he got into his car and informed Hwang Pyong that he knew who the demon Park Il-do was possessing. But before he could finish, the ghost choked him. Then, the evil spirit dragged the shaman into a field, murdered him, and hid his body. The one controlling the demon was none other than the old priest, the one Mateo always trusted. When Mateo returned to the old priest's room in the church, he was not there. Mateo found the old priest's Bible and discovered that the inside had been completely blackened. Finally, he had to accept the truth. The demon spirit Park Il-do was residing in the body of the old priest whom he trusted the most. The next day, Father Mateo went to the church, where the old priest was reading the Bible. He was misreading everything, and the words sounded like a spell, causing the worshippers to become confused. Mateo stepped forward to expose him, but he was immediately apprehended by the church authorities. The other priests asked why Mateo was disrupting the service. Mateo showed them the Bible he had taken from the old priest's room. Everyone was surprised to see the Bible defaced with scribbles. The old priest calmly denied everything, saying that Mateo was trying to frame him. He further accused Mateo of being mentally ill, like his deceased brother, and claimed that one day Mateo would also be overtaken by evil and become a murderer. Mateo angrily insisted that it was he who was the demon, but no one believed him. Ultimately, Mateo was locked up by the parish. On another side, Hwang Pyong returned to his hometown to look for his shaman friend, but couldn't find any leads. In the evening, on his way, Hwang Pyong encountered the vengeful spirit of his friend. He knew that something bad had definitely happened to the shaman and believed that the old priest was responsible for everything. The next day, Kil Young attended a press conference held by Congresswoman Park. She asked about the old priest's information, but the Congresswoman pretended not to know. Suddenly, someone disrupted the press conference. This person accused the Congresswoman of being a scumbag. Kil Young then met with this woman to ask her why. She revealed the illegal activities that the Congresswoman and the old priest had conspired in together, such as tax evasion, corruption, and also a case related to Kil Young's mother 20 years ago. The woman called the Congresswoman a devil. Normally, she seems cheerful and amiable, but when she gets angry, she turns into a crazy woman. Kil Young wanted the woman to come forward as a witness to expose the congresswoman and the old priest. The woman immediately agreed. However, that evening, Congresswoman Park went to the woman's house, gave her a large sum of money, and promised to pay her even more if she kept silent. The woman refused and even kicked Congresswoman Park out. This angered her. "If you don't want to stay silent, I will make you silent forever." Congresswoman Park immediately ordered people to take care of her. The woman was killed, and to dispose of the body, she asked the old priest to handle it. At this time, the old priest was at the hospital where H. Wang Pyung's grandfather was being treated. Upon receiving the call from the congresswoman, he rushed to the woman's house. After a heated argument, he angrily hit the congresswoman hard on the head for her thoughtless actions during this sensitive period. Even so, he still helped the congresswoman deal with the scene, taking the body up the mountain to dig a grave to bury it. Kil Young contacted the woman to discuss her testimony, but after calling many times, no one answered. Sensing something was wrong, she rushed to her house. However, the room was very tidy, unlike the previous time she had visited. This made Kil Young suspect that someone had staged a fake scene. Looking through the trash bags outside, she discovered a murder weapon still stained with blood. Immediately, Kil Young and the police cordoned off the crime scene. At the scene, Kil Young found a working voice recorder. It contained the argument between Congresswoman Park and the woman. The recording clearly showed that the congresswoman was the one who had murdered her. Kil Young reported this to her superior, but he was a coward. Even with clear evidence, he still didn't issue an arrest warrant, only repeatedly saying that Congresswoman Park was someone not to be messed with. In another development, H. Wang Pyung continued to monitor the congresswoman's house. He discovered her driver was driving to a forest area. H. Wang Pyung followed and discovered that the driver was sent by the congresswoman to meet with the old priest. The driver knew too much, so the priest wanted to resolve him to cover their tracks. In the forest, H. Wang Pyung confronted the old priest. Recalling the crimes he had committed against him and those around him, H. Wang Pyung angrily lunged at him and punched him. After that, H. Wang Pyung tied up the old priest and informed Kil Young. She quickly relayed this news to Father Mateo so he could perform an exorcism and drive the demon Park Roman Tudu out of the old priest's body. Upon hearing this, Mateo quickly found a way to escape the church's prison to reunite with H. Wang Pyung. Once there, Mateo called H. Wang Pyung to ask for his specific location. H. Wang Pyung told Mateo that he was on a dirt path. Suddenly, the sky changed color, and the evil spirit within the old priest's body broke free. This distracted H. Wang Pyung. Unexpectedly, the taxi driver who had been possessed earlier lunged forward and stabbed H. Wang Pyung. Meanwhile, Kil Young returned to the woman's house from earlier. Surprisingly, she had come back alive, but her behavior clearly indicated she was possessed. The woman took a sharp object and stabbed herself directly in the eye. At that moment, Father Mateo ran to H. Wang Pyung's location. H. Wang Pyung told him, "Chase after the priest, don't let him escape." Mateo hastily gave chase and encountered the possessed taxi driver. Mateo took out his crucifix to perform an exorcism, but the young priest no longer possessed sufficient spiritual power. He was overwhelmed by the demon and fell to his knees. Just then, the taxi driver ran into the street and was hit by a car. Afterward, Mateo took H. Wang Pyung to the hospital. The next day, H. Wang Pyung woke up and learned that his grandfather had been transferred to another hospital by the old priest. He was furious, unsure of what the old priest was planning next. H. Wang Pyung decided to leave the hospital to find the old priest. On another front, Officer Kang was suspended from duty due to wrongly accusing Representative Park. The woman had logged off in front of the police, not been assassinated as Kil Young had claimed. She also had an important matter she needed to attend to, which she couldn't do while still a police officer. She drove to the hospital to pick up H. Wang Pyung and Father Mateo, and they set off. The three of them prepared for their final pursuit of the demon Park Roman Tudu. At this time, the old priest, taking H. Wang Pyung's grandfather with him, drove out of the city. When he stopped for gas, he saw a worker being exploited. The old priest then called the worker over, took his hand, and said, "From now on, you will be the guide." The worker's expression immediately changed. At that moment, H. Wang Pyung sensed that someone had been possessed and prepared to take action. Based on their description, the group went to a gas station, but the owner there had already been assassinated. The worker also gouged his own eyes out. Afterwards, the worker lunged towards Wang Pyong's car and pointed them towards a path. The group continued in that direction. On the road, they encountered a bus where the driver had harmed all the passengers. This was another of the old priest's ploys. Everywhere he went, he wreaked havoc. The police found the bus driver, who again pointed Wang Pyong's group towards a direction, before then stabbing himself in the eye. Wang Pyong realized that they were heading east. The old priest was trying to lead them to the sea. At this point, the old priest arrived at a nursing home in a seaside village. This was the place where he had done charity work 20 years ago, and also where he was born. The old priest was actually the son of the first person who was possessed. The old priest's father was driven out by the villagers, so he became desperate, which created an opportunity for the demon Park Il-du to take possession of his body. Now, the old priest has returned to take revenge on all the people in this village. He released the demon to possess everyone at the nursing home. Afterwards, they transformed into evil beings, some self-terminated, others went back to attack their own family members. That evening, Wang Pyong went to the nursing home director's house. Upon arrival, Wang Pyong's group discovered that he had been possessed. The three of them immediately restrained him. Wang Pyong wanted Father Mateo to perform an exorcism, but this time he no longer had the strength. Mateo had almost completely lost his power. He was overwhelmed by the demon and ran outside in a panic. Mateo knelt down and begged God for a bit more strength to defeat the demons this time, but the young priest's body was depleted of life force. Seeing this, Wang Pyong knew that if they continued to perform the exorcism, Mateo would die. However, the priest still insisted that he could continue. Inside the house, Kil Young had managed to restrain the possessed director. The family had also called the police. The police arrived and knocked on the door, but Kil Young sensed that something was off, so she told the family to open the door slowly. The police officer, waiting too long, knocked even harder, and then broke the window and climbed into the house. Kil Young realized the police officer was also possessed. He lunged at her, attacking her. Kil Young was no match for him, but luckily, Wang Pyong and the priest arrived in time. They quickly subdued the demon. Mateo tried to continue the exorcism, but he suffered a backlash and was thrown backward. The young priest had no magical power left. Wang Pyong's group knew that the whole village was possessed. If they didn't resolve it quickly, everyone would die. If they wanted to defeat the demons possessing everyone, Wang Pyong's group had to deal with the ultimate demon, Park Il-du, who was controlling the demons from behind the scenes. The group decided to go to the nursing home to find the old priest. When they arrived, they split up to search for him. Wang Pyong's old wound flared up again. Kil Young advised him to sit and wait while they looked for the old priest, otherwise he would kick the bucket before they even found him. At that moment, Wang Pyong told Kil Young that he had to be the one to end all of this, because Father Mateo was too weak. If he continued performing exorcisms, he would die. Wang Pyong also knew a way to destroy the demon Park Il-du within the old priest's body. On this side, Mateo had found the old priest. He wanted to help him destroy the evil spirit Park Ramantu-du, but under the immense pressure from the spirit, Mateo couldn't even move. The old priest told Mateo that he would end everything in order to prepare for a new beginning. At this moment, all the possessed people began slaughtering each other. The entire village would soon be destroyed. Mateo, though suffering agonizing pressure from the evil spirit, still held the crucifix and moved forward. God would not retreat and would help him destroy the evil spirit Park Ramantu-du. Wang Pyong, seeing this scene, hurriedly stopped Mateo. He didn't want the young priest to leave forever. It was then that Wang Pyong revealed Park Ramantu-du's original intention. The perfect body that the demon wanted to possess was Wang Pyong himself. Wang Pyong was willing to offer his body. He wanted Park Ramantu-du to enter his body, then stop the game himself. That was how they could completely destroy Park Ramantu-du. But unexpectedly, the old priest changed his mind. He wanted to end everything. Then, the old priest jumped from above. The whole group didn't understand what was happening. Why? At this point, the demon Park Ramantu-du decided to stop. After the old priest kicked the bucket, the villagers also returned to normal. Huang Piang also found his grandfather. The next day, the three of them discussed the old priest's departure. Everything was going according to his plan, so why did he self-terminate? They remembered his words, "End everything to prepare for a new beginning." Perhaps the evil spirit Park Raman-Tudu would return. He appeared for the first time 60 years ago. 20 years later, he appeared for the second time. And now is the third time. So when would he return next? No one could know. A few days later, Priest Mateo visited the homes of those who had been possessed to check on them once more. He discovered that these people still reacted to the crucifix. Unexpectedly, he realized that the evil spirits still existed. The young priest reported this news to Kil Young. She was extremely astonished by this. Officer Kang was startled to find someone had put a crow's head in a jar at her house. The two immediately thought of Huang Piang. Perhaps he was also in danger. On another side, Huang Piang was actively searching for the body of his wizard friend. He remembered why the wizard disappeared. That day, the wizard came to Huang Piang's house and found something. He also told Huang Piang that he knew who Park Raman-Tudu was. Huang Piang returned home to search, and he found signs of digging in the garden. Huang Piang dug to see what was there. It was a human-shaped talisman made from a human corpse. This corpse was the first person to be possessed by Park Raman-Tudu. Unexpectedly, Park Raman-Tudu was actually Huang Piang's grandfather. Huang Piang brought this to ask his grandfather. But at this time, the person standing in front of him was not his grandfather, but the evil spirit Park Raman-Tudu. Huang Piang had completely restored his childhood psychic abilities. Now he could see ghosts. Since childhood, Huang Piang had realized that the demon Park Raman-Tudu was impersonating his grandfather. But because he was afraid it would harm his family, he didn't dare say anything. After performing an exorcism, Huang Piang also lost his memory and his special abilities. Because Huang Piang had a perfect body, but his sealing power was extremely strong, Park Raman-Tudu had to stay by Huang Piang's side and gradually break down that seal. Only then could he possess Huang Piang's body. Each time Huang Piang suffered, the seal would crack a little. That was why one by one, the people around Huang Piang had to go meet the king of the underworld. Park Raman-Tudu also only used the old priest and the female politician for this purpose. He had almost manipulated everyone. Humans all have a dark side, and he simply exploited their dark sides to turn them into puppets in his game. Huang Piang moved closer to Park Raman-Tudu, but was overwhelmed and coughed up blood. He said to him, "If you desire this body so much, then come and take it." Huang Piang wanted to go to oblivion together with Park Raman-Tudu. After the demon spirit of Park Raman-Tudu possessed Huang Piang's body, it began to break the seal inscriptions placed on his body by his mage friend. Just then, Mateo also arrived at Huang Piang's house. He wanted to help Huang Piang exorcise the evil, but Huang Piang, still with a sliver of consciousness, didn't want the young priest to die because of him. Huang Piang subdued Mateo and ran towards the sea. Ruang saw him and followed. Seeing Huang Piang about to enter the sea, seeing Kil Young swam out and pulled him to shore. Mateo also rushed over and began performing a ritual. But by this point, the demon Park Raman-Tudu had completely taken over Huang Piang's body. He dragged them both into the water. Ruang tearfully begged him to try and control himself, Huang Piang. Temporarily regaining control of his body, he stabbed himself in the eye with a knife and jumped into the sea. Mateo swam after him, but collapsed due to exhaustion. Huang Piang let go of the young priest and slowly sank to the bottom of the sea. Ruang swam out and retrieved both of them, but only managed to save Mateo. The next day, the police began searching for Huang Piang's body. Through a spiritual guidance, they found the body of the mage, but there was no trace of Huang Piang. However, both of them thought he was still alive. A year later, Kil Young and Father Mateo visited Huang Piang's house to check up on things. His uncle discovered that someone had sent many household items to this place. Through investigation, they found the sender's house. Huang Piang was truly alive. The three reunited in elation and emotion. The supernatural always exists around us. You might look under your bed or in the corner of your house. Maybe you'll see them. If you are a person with a pure and virtuous heart, God will be with you and protect you. Just be sure that malevolent demons are following right behind you.